What is up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the Super Revamp show. Probably won't call it that, so please let me know your suggestions. But nonetheless, I shared this tweet a few days ago that got some traction. Over 100 of you actually put in links to your personal sites. I suppose curious about how I would go about rebuilding that using Notion and Super. And that's really the purpose of this, is to showcase what's possible using those tools and maybe a little bit of code as well that we'll go through together. So this is the first website that I decided to start with. His name is Benjamin Hopp, the guy who made this. He's a designer and a longtime supporter. And I thought his site was a good example of something simple and effective. Not a whole lot going on here. There's some heading elements, text elements, some links down here, nice little hover link animation, and a theme toggle for light and dark mode. This is the website that I rebuilt in Notion and Super. And so as you can see, comparing the two here, they're quite similar. The idea for this is not to replicate these sites pixel for pixel. I may add my own, flair or visual improvements where I see fit. So in this scenario, I added a line break and, increased line height, but the rest is fairly identical. I even carried over the hover elements and also the light and dark theme switcher over here. So I'm going to go through the Notion page, but as you can see, really basic. We've got some heading and text elements. We've got some columns over here for separation of content. We've got some links down here. I've also got a hidden toggle that I actually hide from the website. And the purpose of this is to upload certain assets that are hosted on your site. So, in this scenario, if you actually upload your font file to Notion and then on your live site, actually right click on it and then copy the link address, you can actually use that in the source of your font face declaration. And so you can actually host your custom fonts directly on Notion itself, which is pretty cool. Now, two things I want to keep in mind here. One is that custom fonts will be coming soon to Super, so you won't have to go through the code. You'll just have to, upload a font file and it'll be live. And two, uploading and using fonts that are not hosted from a CDN can and likely will impact the performance of your website. So just two things to keep in mind. Now, I'm actually going to go through the site creation process now on Super just to show an example. If I refresh this page, it actually won't work because I deleted the site. So if you're curious about that, yeah, so this is an error from our hosting provider, Vercel, and let's go ahead and create the site. So new website here. Now, static is most often the better option. We'll be, actually redefining our default method as a fallback option, since most of our time and energy is being put into static site development for the clear performance advantages and also SEO advantages. So we'll choose that. So we're going to use a subdomain of Super here. And then for the public Notion URL, we're just going to grab that from Notion. Click share in the top right corner, copy link, paste that in over there. This is a single page site, so we won't be needing any pretty URLs, but if you do have multiple pages, it's a great way to keep your URLs short and concise instead of Notion's long default URLs. So we're going to skip that for now. DNS we had already set up also, so I'm going to continue. This is where we'll be putting in the custom code that we'll go through now. And over here we can actually upload some assets that are used for social sharing purposes and for SEO. So this is the site image. You can upload something there. Upload a favicon. That'll show up in your browser tab. A site description. We'll leave that blank for now. We'll just continue going through this because this has to check DNS. So while that's going through and happening, we'll check on our code here. So this is all the code that we used to make this possible. Now, as you can see, it's not a whole lot, but all of it is fairly straightforward. This bit here is the font face, and this is the URL that I was talking about earlier that's hosted on Notion to link the actual font file. I wouldn't recommend using an asterisk here, because what this means is you're applying these elements to every single, these styles to every single element on your website, so it can impact performance. But for the sake of these videos, I mean, we're just going to choose what's simplest, not necessarily what's the best strategy. Other than that, here we're just modifying some colors. So, you know, changing the default background color to black, changing the default text color to white. Also added a nice little fade-in animation. So the site actually loads in and with a nice little fade, so nice little touch there. And then these elements we are hiding. So the default Notion navbar, the Notion header, so to remove the space up top, and then the Notion toggle. So this element here is this guy here. So if you're planning on using these toggles elsewhere, by the way, this is not a great way to actually hide elements, because this will hide all Notion toggles on your site, no matter which page they're on. And so again, for the sake of this video, to keep things concise, this is fine. But normally, if you want to target a specific element, you would go in, inspect the element, and then find the actual block ID and use that to actually target it. Outside of that, we're modifying some text elements. So, you know, type styles, you know, sizing, widths for the main headings. For this guy, we're modifying some of the custom default gray colors and the size, and we're setting those as heading 2s. And then also some links, and this guy here is the custom hover effect that we got going on here. So we'll see what the status is here. So it looks like it's live. So if I refresh this page, you can see that now the content we have in Notion is on our live domain. So obviously no styles are coming through because there's none in the snippet injection field right now, but let's try and just copy and paste that over and see what happens. Go to settings, super options, paste that into the snippet injection, and then hit save. So as you can see, it's now pretty much identical again. Got the fancy little hover effect, light and dark theme switcher, links and text elements, and everything's looking pretty good. So outside of that, there's really not a whole lot. I actually used an underline element in Notion to target the actual theme toggle switcher. And so this is not the best way to go about it, again, just because if you plan on using an underline element anywhere else on your Notion site, then clicking that will actually toggle the darker light theme. But again, for the sake of this video, we're just going to go with it. It's an easy way to target a specific element, and we don't plan on using an underline element anywhere else on the site for the time being, so this is fine. And then over here, this is just the bit of JavaScript that's making the light and dark mode actually work. But outside of that, that is pretty much the majority of it. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that a lot of these customizations are coming soon standard in Super. So things like navigation bars is a highly requested feature that we're going to be adding to our theming module in Super itself. So you don't actually have to, or you won't actually have to go into the code to modify this. But for now, this is a fun way to show off what's possible. Hope you guys enjoy this video, and let me know other sites that you want me to revamp. Peace.